Hello everyone and welcome back to my dream world. I would like to apologize for this video coming out a little bit later than I expected because there were a lot of things going on this week and I just didn't get around to filming last night after the show. But I do have some thoughts on this night, and I'm gonna be honest, trigger warning, it's a little bit controversial probably, so, be prepared to hear some unpopular opinions. But to those of you who have not seen this channel before, if you're new or if you're getting caught up, my name's Karina. I like doing reviews on my channel. I usually cover family-friendly shows that are nostalgic, that I rewatch and review on this channel. And I've decided to cover Dancing with the Stars this year because I've been watching for a couple years and I was like, why not discuss it on my channel? But yeah, for those of you who don't know, I am not ballroom trained. I'm not a dancer. I do work in the entertainment industry, so I do gauge based on performance and likability. But if you disagree about my opinions because of technique or because of whatever, or if you're correcting me because I'm wrong, that is totally okay. I'm open to criticism. I actually like hearing from ballroom trained dancers about their opinions on this show because they're probably going to make more sense than mine. But yes, this week was dedication night. So, of course, very emotional. I have some thoughts on that. But before I get into covering each couple individually, sorry about that. I just want to say I was so happy to see Kim Johnson as a guest judge. She's super, super amazing. Definitely one of the older nostalgic iconic pros from the show, so I've heard. And I'll get more into this later, but she gave very consistent and valid feedback. So I was really happy to see her on the judging panel. If this was her audition to be a judge, I feel like she passed, at least in my book. I do want to give another heads up. My live kept glitching for some reason, so I think that might have hindered a few of my opinions on each dance. I did rewatch them because I do want to, refresh my memory before I start talking about this, but I think my live glitching for some reason because I can't watch live on Disney Plus or any other streaming services for real because I'm on the West Coast. I do kind of have to watch on ABC's East Coast live through kind of an offset link, and that got really, really glitchy last night. So that kind of messed up a lot for me, unfortunately. But yeah, just a heads up before I go in and actually start covering the dances. I'm just gonna go in running order and cover my opinion based on how they did, how much I enjoyed the dance, and how I felt about the judges' scores. So this week, Andy opened and he dedicated his dance to, I believe, his daughter. I know there's remarriage and stuff like that, but yes, his daughter, who is absolutely adorable. I thought this dance was super cute and I was low-key kind of impressed by that lift he kind of started with. This was one of his stronger dances, but at the end of the day, he's just technically not there. And he was off the time a lot. And that is okay. You don't have to be 100% perfect and technical on this show. That's not what it's about. However, we are halfway through the competition at this point. So at this point, I'm kind of we need to start looking at the actual danceability and how much they've improved. Yes, he's improved, but other people are improving a lot more or just doing a lot better. So unfortunately, I do feel like next week, because they didn't eliminate anyone this night, for those of you who, want me to talk about that, they didn't eliminate anyone this night. And I get why they didn't, but I'm kind of would he have gone home? And because he did score the lowest, but it's kind of how many votes is he actually getting? Because if he was kept over Jen or Elaine, who were we'll get into that later. But it's kind of how long are we going to keep this man here when he is glaringly the weakest dancer left? I love Andy. I don't have anything against him, but that's just kind of honestly how I feel about this competition. I do think that if he doesn't go home next week, I'm going to be mildly appalled. Next, we're going to get into Robert, and this is one of the ones that actually made me cry, because I'm happy that he dedicated his dance to his mom. I think her strength is genuinely not appreciated enough. I I definitely saw him get emotional in the dance when his mom took Whitney's place in the routine. And yeah, that got me. That got me a little bit. And I was impressed with him. I felt like it was a pretty clean routine with the right amount of tricks, good contemporary content, beautiful tribute and emotion, and that's what we want in a contemporary on the show, because a lot of pros don't actually do a proper contemporary. No shade, no tea, no shade. But Whitney is pretty good with contemporaries, so I did have high hopes for this, and I think he delivered. Was it a technical masterpiece? No. Because some people are saying, like, he deserved tens across the board. I disagree, because he's been getting 7s and 8s, right? So if he improves, I think it's fair that he gets a 9. I don't think it was a technical masterpiece. People were saying, like, he pointed his foot. Yes, he did, but he also sickled them. Like, people were pointing out he sickled his feet. There were some technical issues. So I don't know if it deserved a 10, but I do think it was emotionally beautiful. And I'm very happy for Robert. He has, I was talking about, because I love Robert. I really, really do. But he has been kind of, plateauing just a little bit this season, like in the past few weeks. So it was nice to see him, like, really break out and deliver that dance that he needed, because he kind of, like, I was starting to feel that he kind of peaked in week 1. And I was like, oh boy, like, ugh. But no, he did wonderfully with his contemporary. And, as someone who grew up with a single mom, maybe I'm a little biased, and that's why I got emotional. But yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't give him 10s, because I felt like that would have been a little bit too much of a jump from his previous scores. But I agree with the 9s. I was a little surprised that Carrie Ann gave him an 8, and we will get into that. I mean, some people are really mad at that. I'm not mad at it. I'm just a little surprised based on some of the other scores. But we'll get into that later. Robert, I thought that was wonderful. Okay, next was Elaine, and I hate that Elaine had to follow up Robert's dance, especially because hers wasn't all that emotional. Like, I loved her dance. It was wonderful, but hers was more of like a happy, celebratory dance, while his was like an emotional, deep, painful one. So it's like, yeah, of course, people aren't going to be as emotionally attached to Elaine's, even though I totally cried when I saw, like, her dance didn't make me cry, but when I saw her October 11th TikTok, I bawled my eyes out, because it was so, so sweet. Like, her and Lisa's friendship is gorgeous, and I adore Lisa and Walter because I'm an avid Elementary fan. So I knew this dance was going to make me happy. It was more so, like I said, a more of a sweet, nostalgic, upbeat dance, which I enjoyed that. I feel like if every single dance is, like, depressing or, like, heart-wrenching throughout the night, it gets a little bit draining. But, so I was really happy to see, like, a more upbeat one. However, like, I think she executed the choreography gorgeously. I love that they actually kind of did a proper trio. Lisa was, like, properly tied into this dance, and she did a great job. Get her on this show. The scoring, awful. Insane. I'm like, how were you going to give her 7s and give people who had worse technique, we'll get into that, 9s? Really? Was she that much worse than Robert, than Dylan? This was the one time I side-eyed Kim during this night, and Derek too. People point out Carrie Ann's favoritism, which is true. Like, I will acknowledge that when it pops up. But Derek also does it, and y'all don't give him nearly as much heat. It's always like, Carrie Ann. Derek's the one that kind of underscored Elaine tonight. Him and Kim. I was surprised by that. I feel like she deserved all 8s. Again, I'm not ballroom trained, so I can't say, but I feel like she was penalized because she had a less emotional, more upbeat dance that was not a contemporary, and I don't think that's fair. Yes, Elaine has experience, but at this point, we're mid-competition. We need to start judging more, like, on the same level, and it's starting to get on my nerves. I'm going to get into that more, but, ooh. Wasn't a fan of the way they scored her, because this was actually this might be unpopular. I think this might have been my favorite dance of the night upon rewatch. And I'll talk about that when I get to highlights. But yeah, I really loved Elaine's dance. I was not happy with her scores. And I was so scared that she was if there was an elimination, that she would be the one getting cut. So, I am rooting for Elaine. And so that made me nervous. Next was Whitney, and I'm going to be, like, she has been a little bit of a controversial figure on this show, and personally, I'm not a fan of hers, so I haven't been voting for them, but I've enjoyed their dancing so far. I loved the choreography and I liked the dance, but it's the truth when Derek and Kim said that there were some pretty stark timing issues in the middle of the dance. And it also wasn't as emotional as some of the other dances, at least in my opinion, but like, other than the timing issues, I do feel like it was technically strong and there was some good content in there, but I am glad that she got called out of the mistakes, because if I saw them, more than likely people who actually have dance training noticed it as well. I'm not going to address the TikTok drama with Mark and Whitney because that's not what this channel is about right now, but while I don't think they deserve the hate last week, I do think Carrie Ann was wilding a little bit with that 9, because even with the error, would you have given it a 10? Because the way it was addressed, I felt like had she not messed up the timing, she probably would have gotten 9s across the board. But with that mistake, did she really deserve a 9? Because all the other judges gave her an 8, and they've been kind of sticking at that. Carrie Ann's been the only one, because people are saying, oh, she's so favored, but the only person who's given her a 9 is Carrie Ann. Everybody else has given her 8s, and I think that's been pretty fair, especially last night, given the mistake. But yeah, scoring is just kind of wild this season, regarding everybody, not just Whitney. But yeah, for me personally, I did enjoy the content of her dance. I liked the choreography. I think overall she had good technique, but that mess up was pretty stark. And I think that does knock her down a point. So I've seen some people scoring her super, super low. Come on, y'all, let's be real. That was not a bad dance. It was still better than a lot of the other people, but she did kind of take a step down. It was her weakest stance, unfortunately. So I do understand why people are like, what the heck is up with that 9? Next, we have Jen. I feel like she had beautiful emotion, and she was very sick this week. For those of you who didn't follow social media, she was very ill, so she didn't get as much rehearsal time. So given that, I think she did a great job. I am kind of glad that Kim gave her a note on her frame, because it wasn't a technical, like, she did have a lot of technical mistakes. She did a good job, but, you know, it's the truth. And I do feel like, and this is more of a, like, choreography issue, but I did notice that I felt like it was a contemporary, at least at the beginning. It felt more like a contemporary, and even seemed to have some lifts. Like, some people were pointing out, was that a lift? Was that a lift? And I noticed that as well. I almost forgot that it was supposed to be a Viennese waltz until I remembered Jan said in their package, like, this is what we're talking about. Jan, I like him. I have nothing against him. I think he's a good dancer, but it's kind of clear that even if he does have ballroom training, he's not a ballroom expert. And I do feel like that is kind of an issue when you are a pro on this show. Given how they scored Elaine, I am kind of glad that Jen didn't score higher, but I do feel like they were both like a little bit too hard on her at the same time. Unfortunately, I don't think Jan is really able to give her the corrections that she needs, and that's disappointing because I feel like she's a great performer. She's a good dancer. Like, she would have the ability to apply the corrections if she was given the corrections. So I'm just kind of like, dang, like I'm a little bit mixed about Jen on this show right now, because some people are like, they did her so dirty, but it's like there are some glaring technical issues. So it's like, oof, I do worry, because I know the Swifties have her back. The Swifties do have her back, so she's getting the votes. But I am kind of like, is she in danger? I don't know. We'll see. Next was Dylan. This was a cute tribute. I cackled when I saw how good his little sister's feet looked compared to his. No shade, but it's the truth. And I do kind of feel like at the beginning of his dance, she low-key outshined him. Like, sorry. I do feel like she kind of did. I do, however, like, I enjoyed this dance. Danny, her contemporary choreography is good, and I feel like he didn't get completely outshined by her this time, because like I've been saying, Dylan has been drastically outshined by his partner throughout the season. This, I didn't feel like that was the case, but there were some technical issues. His musicality was great, but he was sloppy in some places, and he did well, but I do think it was scored way too high. He has been overscored over the course of the show repeatedly. Strictly based on choreography, I did enjoy this dance, but technically, come on, let's be fair. I don't think he was that much better than Elaine and Jen, because if we're giving them 7s, how are we giving him 9s? I feel like that's a little bit too much. I like Dylan, but the glaze is kind of crazy. It's not that he didn't deserve good scores, but if they're going to be way harder on other people and not on him, he feels overscored in comparison. Because it's like, you know, Jen's also a beginner, Danielle's a beginner, but I feel like they're way harder on them than they are on Dylan. And that just, it doesn't feel fair to me. And I don't like that. And so him being at the top of the leaderboard just did not feel right to me. Again, nothing against that man. I actually think he did well last night. I think some people are being a little bit too hard on him because they're mad that he got the top score. But I am going to have to agree when I say I think they're glazing him. I don't know. Is he that attractive? Maybe I'm missing something. Judges, really? What's going on? Okay, and next was Jordan. As an ADHD girly, I totally understand how Jordan felt so validated by her dad really taking steps to help her and put her in gymnastics to control that ADHD. And her dad is an absolute delight. If you've seen him at competitions, like I watched the Olympics last year, he was like, yeah, like he's her biggest cheerleader. So I love that she dedicated this dance to him. She also looked stunning. Like, she both danced and looked stunning in that outfit. Her and Elaine win best dressed for me last night because they looked gorgeous. I'm gonna be fair. I did notice, I don't remember exactly where, but I noticed a slightly awkward moment when she kind of moved to dance with her dad. Was it a misstep? Did she trip? I don't know. But the judges didn't seem to point it out. They gave her all, like, fabulous feedback. And then she got all 8s. And I was like, okay, so is she, like, it just felt kind of weird because they're giving all positive feedback to her, but then they give her 8s. I don't know. Like, I think she was scored fairly, but in comparison to others, I was just kind of like, really? That felt kind of low, actually. Like, I just feel like some people are being overscored. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Y'all can let me know what you think, but as much as I did notice that little mistake, I thought she did a great job. And she, you know, stuck true to the style. I've really been enjoying I think Ezra is really proving himself as a pro this season. So props to him. And this is my favorite couple. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I don't know. Scoring just feels off tonight for me. Next, we have Scott. And first of all, congratulations to Scott and Mark since they're going to be dads soon. That is absolutely wonderful. I know that baby is going to be so loved. So I'm really happy for them. And it got me a little emotional when they were talking about that, but the dance itself didn't make me emotional. Like, it was a sweet dance. I didn't see any huge errors. Like, he didn't, like, misstep or go out of time or anything, at least from what I saw. But it is clear to me that he was more comfortable with jazz and salsa. His frame improved since week 1, which was his last ballroom dance, especially considered that he has scoliosis. Did I pronounce that right? I don't know. But there are still some posture issues that have to be addressed, and I do think he might have been even a little bit overscored. I don't think he was better than Jen or Elaine. I actually think, other than Andy, he might have been the weakest dance of the night, which makes me kind of sad because I love Scott. But it just feels insane that Elaine gets a 7 and Scott gets an 8. Derek, what are you doing? I don't get it. I'm just going to complain about the scoring. I'm so sorry. I usually try to be more positive than this, but, you know, I did have an issue with it last night. But second to last, we had Danielle. And, okay, this was another one that got me emotional because, oh, why am I blanking on his name? Mr. Feeney is adorable. I really liked this dance, but my live kept glitching, so I had to rewatch it, and I think that kind of took me out of it a little bit. I did kind of see, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that she wasn't pointing her feet, which is kind of like bad when you're doing the jive as far as I've heard. But despite that, there was a lot of jive content. So I enjoyed the dance. Like, it was fun to watch. Excuse me. I'm obviously not expecting her to have perfect technique because she doesn't have dance experience prior to this. Not my favorite of hers. It did have some mistakes. So I do feel like the 7s were appropriate, but again, the scoring just feels so off when she's scoring super low, and then some people who also had technical mistakes are getting 8s and 9s. It's like, really? I don't know, but I do think she was scored appropriately, but I felt bad for her because I feel like they were way harder on her than they were on a few others. But yeah, this dance was really cute and sweet. Not technical best, I'll be honest. It wasn't my favorite of the night, but I don't know. I just felt kind of bad for her. And then last but certainly not least, we had Alex. Okay, I might get some hate for this. I, once again, forgot that Alex was on this show. Genuinely, I've enjoyed her dances so far. I just don't think I've invested myself in her dance journey because I don't follow her. I'm not really a fan of hers. But I do think her dedication to her sister was very sweet. She danced very beautifully. I do think that in terms of technique, this was one of the stronger contemporary. I think contemporary wise, it was the strongest contemporary in terms of execution. Emotionally, not a standout for me. Jeez, there's something wrong with my throat right now. Emotionally, not a standout. Technically, very strong. Some people really love this dance. Like, a lot of people are saying, what the heck was that 8? Like, I do think she deserved those 9s. I do. Like, I think she deserved those 9s, especially because she didn't get them last week. So I do think she deserved those 9s. Because technically, she was great. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just not connecting to her. And that's just a personal preference. I'm not, like, especially because she also, like, some people are saying she doesn't. She does have prior dance experience, y'all. She literally said it in week 1. Let's not brush over it. But, like, if we're going to get mad at Chandler for having dance experience, we need to hold Alex to the same standard. Sorry, not sorry. I personally did find myself more impressed with her Viennese waltz, simply because that was the first dance of the season that I thought was really wowing, along with Jordan's tango. And also, like, you know, Viennese waltz is much more technical and probably harder for her than the contemporary, so I was more impressed by it. I think that's the dance that stood out to me when it comes to Alex, but this dance was very good. Like, don't get me wrong, very good dance. Pure dancing wise, it deserved the higher scores of the night. She probably should have been the one on the top of the leaderboard, which is why I do find it mildly appalling that she scored lower than Dylan. I get that, like, she has dance experience, he doesn't, but it's kind of like, really? Like, again, we kind of have to start holding people to the same scoring level because we're mid-season now. It's not at like the beginning where it's like, yeah, you did a lot of content even though you have no experience. So that did, like, I do think that in terms of scoring, she probably should have been at the top of the leaderboard. That's how I feel. Even though she wasn't my favorite dance of the night, I do think she should have been at the top of the leaderboard. But overall, okay, there was no elimination tonight. So it's kind of like I'm kind of trying to figure out how I should close out this video. Personally, my favorite dance, emotionally, Robert. Technically, probably Alex. But then, like, we have to find a middle ground, so Elaine and Jordan were also amongst my faves, so those are kind of who I'm gonna highlight tonight. But overall, I am kind of happy that, like, even though I think there should have been an elimination tonight, because I just think that's kind of silly when they're like, no, today's a happy night, no one gets eliminated. But I am kind of glad there wasn't, because the scoring was whack. Once again, scoring was whack, and I would have crashed out if Elaine went home, because I actually do think she seriously was in danger, and that's disappointing because I've been enjoying her so much this season. So I'll get into that next. Scoring was off tonight. Carrie-Ann was either overscoring or underscoring compared to everyone else. Derek underscored Elaine, but also, like, upscored Scott, who was not nearly close to her level, so it's kind of ridiculous for him to get scored higher. I get if they scored the same, but scoring him higher is kind of crazy to me. Even Kim, and I know I praised her tonight, but even Kim had me side-eyeing for her scoring Dylan higher than Elaine and Jen. Like, 2 points higher? Really? That's kind of wild. But at least she gave consistent and structured feedback. So once again, I would vote for her to be a judge over some other people on this panel. A lot of people were saying, like, Kim's feedback is what we should be getting. I just wish her scoring matched up just a little bit more, but overall, I did agree with her scoring. The only ones that made me kind of side-eye her was, like, Dylan and Elaine. But yeah, I would vote to make her a judge. I really liked her feedback and the way she explained things constructively but kindly. It was giving Sharna, whose reviews I also love. I wasn't as emotional as I thought I would get, because I usually, like, I get very, very emotional. I'm an emotional person. Maybe it's because I had a weird day at work, so I was kind of like, eh. and my live kept glitching. I only really cried during like Robert's and Danielle's dances for some reason. Those were the two that decided to make me emotional tonight. And I did cry during Scott's package. And also, I forgot to mention this. Did y'all catch that Derek low-key revealed the gender of his baby? During Jordan's scoring, like, feedback, he was like, I can't wait to have a dance with my, child when I'm a dad. He almost said daughter, y'all. Like, I know it's not public knowledge yet, but that was a little slip up. But yeah, I didn't get as emotional as I thought I would. Maybe I'm just evil. I don't know. I don't think I'm evil. I usually get very, very emotional, but this was one case where I didn't. I think I was just kind of so off-put by the scoring that I was like, yeah, I'm not getting emotional at this point. And that brings me into my next topic. Contemporaries are just so weird to judge next to other ballroom dances because I feel like they're just held to a different standard. When it's contemporary, it's all about the emotion. And I feel like other ballroom dances don't get that leeway sometimes, which isn't fair. Like a prime example of this last season was when Chandler got docked a point by Carrie Ann when she, needed something more, or like it's a higher technical standard, when Carrie Ann was giving 10s to everybody except Ilona, who all had like contemporaries or a dance that allowed lifts. That's a prime example of ballroom dances being held to a higher standard, and women in general, by the way. No tea, no shade. But ballroom dances being scored harder than contemporaries, which kind of doesn't make sense because I personally am more impressed by a well-executed ballroom dance than a well-executed contemporary because it is more technical. It is more about like the frame or the bounce or whatever style it is. Again, not a professional dancer, so correct me if I'm wrong about the lingo, but I don't like it when contemporaries are judged differently than ballroom dances. It feels weird. Somebody on TikTok said they should treat dedication night like a mid-season freestyle and let everyone do contemporary and jazz so that they don't clash with the ballroom. I 100% agree with that because that way everybody kind of gets a freestyle because they do treat contemporaries and jazz like a freestyle on this show. No tea, no shade. And I just feel like that's not fair because like when we have Jordan and Elaine doing Foxtrot and Viennese Waltz versus these emotionally profound contemporaries, they kind of got the short end of the stick. And I don't feel like that's fair because even though they danced well, they seemed to be underscored. That's just my opinion on the matter. Apparently, and this is my last point, John M. Chu is guest judging for Wicked Night. Which, if so, Bay Area represent because I'm actually from like the next door town of this man. I go to his dad's restaurant all the time. So I was kind of like, ooh, yay. Like whenever I hear his name, I get excited because I'm like, hey, Bay Area represent. But I am kind of interested to see how he judges because when there are non-dance trained guest judges, I'm kind of like, please don't screw this up. I don't think he's going to be anything like Gene Simmons, but I'm kind of like, we have had some pretty bad misses when it comes to guest judges, so high hopes for him. But overall, I am very excited for Wicked Night because I'm interested to see, I'm a theater kid, y'all. If y'all don't know, I am a theater kid. So when I saw Wicked Night, I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see which styles they pick, which song everybody gets. And if they're going to do a double elimination, because clearly they're going to do an extra or a double elimination at some point on the show. So I'm kind of like, oof, I don't know how that's going to go. So I am anticipating. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you all for listening. If you listened all the way through this video, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe so that I can, keep pumping out these videos. And once again, if you disagree with me, that's totally cool. All I ask is that if you choose to comment, please be kind. I am super open to constructive criticism and I like seeing other people's opinions, but let's not be negative because I feel like we're all allowed to have different opinions and this comment section is not the place to get in fights because we like someone different. It's okay. At the end of the day, this is a cute little dance show for unscripted TV. We should be having fun, not being negative, not voting people out. Like, let's vote for our favorites and appreciate who we enjoy, period. But yeah, thank you for watching and I will see you all next week for Wicked Night. Bye!